the saying "I remember it like it was yesterday" could be applied to a lot of things so far this decade. But I really can't believe it's already been a year since this graced my mailbox. So, hello, this is Ryan speaking, and this is one of those rare occasions where I actually decide to talk over the video. So, Pac-Man Birth of an Icon is an officially licensed art and history book authored by Arjun Terpstra and Tim Lapatino. But of course, a book that is this massive and filled to the brim with all sorts of information and pictures, it definitely takes more than two people to whip up a book as extravagant as this one. So I thought I would take this time today to talk about how I got involved with the project. As you can see, there I am. Now, if you haven't gotten this book yet, I wholeheartedly recommend it because there's a whole lot of stuff packed into this one book. This is far beyond the usual, Pac-Man was made to appeal to women, or Toru Utani thought of the character by looking at a pizza. The book is really thorough, and it goes through pretty much the history of Namco, Midway, how they came to Pac-Man, and basically how Pac-Man got made, and then how Pac-Man managed to be the phenomenon that it ended up being. At first, I was brought onto the project to read an early draft of the book to make sure everything sounds good, basically. But honestly, I'm not really sure how much of that I needed to correct, to be honest. One thing I distinctly remember asking was about the Professor Pac-Man story and how, supposedly a couple of foosball players came up with the idea for it. Oh yeah, Johnny Lott, that's who it was. I asked about the story of Midway rejecting the game only for them to end up releasing it without letting them know, but according to the book, it's more that they just altered the gameplay significantly in a way that didn't quite resemble the original pitch. That's what this turned out to be. I think there were a few other comments I made about the information, but really, most of the notes I had were about the sentence structure and stuff like that. Because when it came to the information, I was on board with it from the get-go. Even when this whole book was just one big Word document, I just knew this was a good read. Not only was I invested in the story that they were telling, but also I just learned lots of new stuff that I didn't even know about Pac-Man, or Namco for that matter. But nevertheless, there was something I got to do for Tim and Arjun after that. The Pac-Man Gameology was my doing. Tim told me that there was this one section of the book that they wanted to have that was similar to the timeline section that they had in the Sonic the Hedgehog 25th anniversary book that was also made by Cook and Becker. And with that objective, I took it upon myself to make it a challenge for me to see how much of Pac-Man's history I could cram into this one section of the book. Much of the book is focused on Pac-Man's history in the 80s, but if you know me, I go way beyond that for the Pac-Man Twitter accounts that I run. Another goal that I had in mind for the Gameology is that I want people to look at all these games and go, this game sounds interesting. I might want to look it up and probably even play it. Ooh, Pac-Man Adventures in Time. Adventures in Time sounds interesting. I made sure that this Gameology spanned from the 80s to whatever was the newest at the time of the making of this book. Probably to a fault, because there were a couple entries in here where I felt like I might have been partially responsible for the book's delays. One day I reached out to Tim and I was like, Can I put Pac-Man Party Scramble and Ridge Racer V into the timeline? And then I did that, and not long after that, I think the book got delayed. So I was like, oh no, is it my fault? I hope I didn't waste any paper. Especially when this stuff looks so gorgeous. Just about all of it is my writing, though I did notice some edits to it here and there. Although already running a Twitter account that goes over obscure Pac-Man information helped, there was still a lot of research I had to put into to make this happen. It was definitely challenging for me, but it was also a lot of fun because, I mean, I'm already such a big fan of Pac-Man, and to get to do a timeline, like a written, detailed timeline of games for an official Pac-Man product, it's like, it's ultimately satisfying for me to see my contribution put all together like this. I was so excited to see how this all came together that I even looked on YouTube to see if anyone was posting videos about the book. And I thought I would be lucky to see some glimpses of the gameology here. And what I thought was kind of funny about it was there were even a couple of videos from people that don't speak English. And I forget what other languages that the book is printed in. I think I saw a video where, like, it was in Italian. And it was just surreal to see glimpses of my writing officially translated to other languages. Though it wasn't exactly the first time that happened at all. When I was still a journalist for the Inner Circle Games Network, I reviewed a Bibi Blocksberg, however you pronounce it. I reviewed a video game in that series for the Switch. And apparently some Italian game publication site actually plagiarized the review and made it sound like it was for the PlayStation 4 version. But other than changing out Nintendo Switch to PlayStation 4, it was actually still the same exact writing that I did, only it was translated to Italian. At first, I was pretty mad about it, and I even had the review taken off the site. But a fellow writer on the Inner Circle staff told me something along the likes of, that's how good my writing is, that someone would want to steal it. And I think from there, I strangely kind of look back on it more fondly. Bandai Namco provided the images for the Gameology too, which I thought was really cool and also really funny because I basically single-handedly reminded them that Pac-Man Pizza Parlor exists. And while it was a lot of fun seeing all this come together, I did have a bit of a reaction towards the end of the Gameology. I was turning the pages and then I thought, oh no. For those that don't know, Pac-Man Geo was delisted like a month before this book was even released. So I had a bit of an ironic laugh there. I do have to admit, though, the art looks really good on this page. That's another thing I like about these images. They just look so good. I'm pretty partial to these arcade flyers myself. Even the boxes that they ship the books in just look really good. You could just tell that the entire thing just oozes love and care. So here's a little look at the collector's edition. Sorry for this shadow here. That's this thing. It comes with these two protective molds that are actually pretty hard. Gotta admire the resemblance to Pac-Man's face. This little steelbook right here is where you would find an official reissue of Pac-Man Fever by Buckner and Garcia. It's a vinyl disc too, which is really neat. And at the top of the steelbook here, you can find this nifty little Pac-Man token. It reminds me a lot of the tokens that Namco used to make for arcades. Kinda wish I held on to some of them. What's better than one collector's edition? Two collector's editions. I've been keeping this one sealed, but who knows, maybe I'll open it someday. To top off the showcase, this came with the rest of the packaging, and what this is a very nice little thank you slip. And of course, I can't open this without saying thank you for letting me be part of this. So later that month, I think a couple weeks after the book came out, I met Tim in person at Free Play Florida. Maybe one day I'll get to say the same thing about Arjun. The expo was really fun. Tim was awesome. He did this Pac-Man panel where he elaborates on what he finds so fascinating about the franchise and what led him to being part of the book in the first place. After the panel, I went to his table, we thanked each other, and we chatted some more about Pac-Man. I got to learn quite a bit about how he cooperated with Bandai Namco's legal team for the book. And we also talked a bit about Pac-Man Museum Plus, since that apparently had to be announced as I was taking the train ride along the way to Free Play Florida. That was definitely a surprise when I woke up on the train. Tim was having a book signing at his table, so naturally there was a line of people, each with their own copy. One person sat the book down and was flipping through the pages as he was talking to Tim about it. And when he stopped at the Gameology, I kind of impulsively pointed down at the book and I was like, I helped out on that part. After talking a bit about my role on the book, he then asked if I wanted to sign his copy. Which I do admit I was kind of taken aback. I mean, it makes sense. I did work on the book. And this was a book signing. I guess it just didn't entirely click with me that I now have this actual justification for being able to sign books. But you know what? I signed the book, and I was very proud to do that. Probably a bit too proud. I asked if I could take a picture. The realization still needed to kick in, you know? I actually got something signed at Free Play Florida myself. When I was getting information about the convention, I realized that Q*bert creator Warren Davis was going to be there. So I thought, hey, it'd be cool if I had him sign this Tiger tabletop game. I knew this would be a cool thing for him to sign because there was no way he knew that this was even a thing. I accidentally kind of smudged my name as I was going away from his table, and I didn't really want to have to ask him to do over it or something after I already paid. But, yeah. It's still pretty nice. I even let him get to try it while I was at his table. I'm sure this was a very interesting experience for him. So yeah, there was a lot going on at Free Play Florida. Definitely a lot of Pac-Man stuff. There was this custom-built Pac-Man machine that used a pump-it-up pad as a controller. And there were a few little prizes if you reached a certain score. Obviously, I took on that challenge. I actually got 2 of these. My legs were absolutely killing me by the end of the trip. Didn't help that I was wearing sandals. It was still a lot of fun, though. If I ever see that machine again, you know I'm going to try for the high score again. Another event that they had going on was this trivia night session. Hosted in one of the panel rooms, it was basically this video game quiz for everyone to participate in. The grand prize, a copy of Pac-Man Birth of an Icon. I didn't exactly participate, but I was in the room seated watching everyone else do it. Last time I competed in one of these things, I effortlessly walked away with a 0 figure. So, you know, I wanted to give someone else a shot. Plus, I mean, obviously I already owned the grand prize. I worked on the thing. It was fun looking at the questions with the slides and people answering. But I have to give a special shout out to this one 7-year-old that was in the audience. I don't know if his dad was whispering answers to him or whatnot, but he was actually getting some of these right. And these are questions about video games and consoles that are decades older than him. He quickly became a favorite of everyone in the room. To keep track of scores, poker chips are given out for each question that was answered correctly. When all of the questions were done, the announcer was asking how many chips people had. One guy in the audience said 14. The entire latter half of the audience passed their poker chips along person by person to make sure that they went into the hands of this 7-year-old boy. So when the announcer asked the boy how many chips he had, he said 15. And he was awarded the copy of the book. It was so heartwarming and hilarious at the same time. The morning after the convention was over, I had some time to kill before catching the train. I wasn't really sure what to do, though. I went to the first floor of the hotel to have some breakfast for once. I burned my thumb rather badly on a Mickey Mouse waffle iron. And then that's when it hit me. I thought to myself, wait a second, I'm in Orlando. Disney World is in Orlando. Disney World has a mini golf course that I haven't played since I was in grade school. I took an Uber to the Disney Winter Summerland mini golf course, and man, it takes me back. They did not change a thing about the course, and I am super grateful for that. Of all the mini golf courses that I played in real life, this one's my favorite. The course designs and the set pieces are leagues above the usual generic green mini golf affairs. If you're ever in Disney World, or maybe Disneyland if they happen to have the same thing, I think you owe it to yourself to play Winter Summerland. Though I say that as someone that really likes mini golf. So yeah, that's my ramble for the trip and the book. The whole November was such a blast. Getting to finally see the finished product hands-on, to meeting Tim Lapatino at the convention, and of course, finally playing Disney's Winter Summerland mini golf. I hope you all have a good night.